Historically cold temperatures are incoming, and what I'm about to reveal at the 4-minute mark about the magenta zones on the temperature map will redefine what you thought was possible in December. But first, you need to understand why this very young winter has already shattered expectations and what the next 2 weeks will bring for millions of Americans. We're just 12 days into meteorological winter, and it's already been a super cold start. Arctic air has been pouring into the central and eastern states relentlessly. Multiple clipper systems have rolled through over the past 10 to 12 days. And if you think we're done, think again. Because this weekend brings an Arctic blast so intense that temperatures will run 25 degrees or more below normal across a massive area. Here's the number that should shock you immediately. 25 degrees below normal. That's not just cold, that's historically cold. Those are the magenta zones you're going to see on the temperature maps. And at the 19-minute mark, I'm going to show you why the long-range signals suggest this pattern isn't going away anytime soon, despite a brief warm-up mid-December. But first, let me deliver on that promise about this weekend's Arctic blast and the multiple snowstorms lining up. Looking at the past 14 days from the final 2 days of November into the first 12 of December, this pattern has been dominated by a positive PNA. That means warmer conditions along the western seaboard of North America. And I don't even have to point out where the Arctic air has been coming from and where it's headed. It's been pouring south from Canada into the central and eastern states nonstop. This has been a super cold start to winter, and our storm track has been pretty similar too. A lot of clipper systems rolling through over the last 10 to 12 days. Fast moving, not huge snow producers individually, but one after another. It adds up. And now another clipper system is on the way. By tomorrow afternoon, a lot of the plains, especially the northern plains into the Midwest, will see yet another snow system rolling through. This is getting repetitive, and for some of you exhausting. But this is what an active winter pattern looks like. As we move into tomorrow evening, things get interesting. We're going to see some heavier snowfall across eastern Kentucky, into West Virginia, eastern Ohio, and into southwestern Pennsylvania, as well as far western Maryland. This is one section of heavier snowfall, but the heart of the mid-Atlantic is getting some heavier snowfall as well. DC up through Maryland, southeastern Pennsylvania into New Jersey. A lot of southern and central New Jersey getting involved. And I also expect Long Island into southern New England to be a bit of a bullseye as well for this system as we reach later on Sunday. Let me be specific about this Sunday storm, because this is important for millions of people. By later Sunday, we're going to see heavier snow starting for southern Connecticut, southern Rhode Island, and southeastern Massachusetts. This is what we call a mid-Atlantic special type snow system, and I think this could drop 3 to 6 inches of snowfall at least. Pretty plowable. Moderate snow system. Nothing crazy, but certainly hitting some areas that have been missing out on a lot of the snowfall. 3 to 6 inches might not sound like a lot to some of you in the snowbelt, but for the Interstate 95 corridor for areas that haven't seen much yet this season, this is significant. This is the kind of snow that impacts travel, closes schools, and creates headaches for millions of people. The day after really Sunday into Monday, things get quite cold along the eastern states. But this is the beginning of when we see some milder air able to work its way in. And this is where the pattern gets fascinating. Don't miss this next part, because what I'm about to explain about the pattern flip will help you understand the rest of December. Looking at Tuesday the 16th, we're clearly going to be a lot more mild, not a massive trough in the east. And that lasts for a lot of the week until we reach about Thursday the 18th, when we can see a strong low between the Great Lakes and Hudson Bay. Pretty classic look. Some pretty significant snowfall for the northern plains and upper Midwest, and a very significant cold front setting up. Heavy showers and thunderstorms are going to be a possibility, especially for southern locations, but I wouldn't rule it out for parts of the Midwest and Great Lakes either. This is pretty mild humid air out ahead of that cold front, and really intense cold and dry air behind it. That's usually a recipe for some really volatile weather. We're going to be watching to see how high the humidity and temperatures can get in these northern areas. You're typically looking for dew points in the upper 50s or 60s at least for potential for thunderstorms. This is still about 6 days out, so specifics will change. But the pattern is clear. A significant storm system with the potential for severe weather ahead of it and winter weather behind it. As we look at Friday, we can see this cold front rolls through the eastern states between Thursday and Friday. We do get a secondary low developing for New England, and this does cause some snowfall for the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic. It's also worth noting that we get really intense cold air moving over those lakes, so we do end up with some lake effect snowfall getting going as we reach into the weekend. This is classic. Cold air over warm lake water equals heavy snow downwind. As we reach Saturday, though, we can see we rebound into a milder pattern again pretty quickly. And this gets us to Tuesday, the 23rd Wednesday, the 24th Christmas Eve. But it's important to note we're still descending with this jet stream into the east. It will be normal to slightly below normal temperatures for most areas, especially the northern half. It's just not that severely below normal temperatures that we've dealt with recently. And this is a critical point I need to emphasize. These milder periods are always going to happen, even in the coldest of winters. You can't stay very, very cold the entire time. Here's why. When these Arctic blasts happen for us, the Arctic itself is actually quite mild. It's not really increasing the amount of ice and snow up there. The Arctic needs to recharge that cold air, which happens via ice and snow. It consolidates all of its cold air and then gets ready to unleash it again. So it cannot stay like it's been for the first 12 days of winter from December 1st all the way through the end of February. It just doesn't happen. This milder period is very standard and expected. It would be shocking if this wasn't happening. And as we move on, Christmas actually gets even colder along the eastern seaboard. We actually do get a pretty significant winter storm setting up on the European model. Specifics don't really matter this far out, but it is a good sign to see these models continuing to show things active and cold at times. This Christmas system would impact the Northeast with some snowfall, maybe some mixed precipitation in the mid-Atlantic. It's not the coldest look, so definitely something to keep our eyes on. We do see a lot of activity for the West as well picking up as we reach into late December. Now let's look at the GFS model and see where we get some agreement. Obviously, this upcoming Clipper system is going to be quite similar. We see it impact areas of the Midwest Ohio Valley, Mid-Atlantic, and parts of southern New England. Pretty similar there. As we keep going, we do get milder after that, similar to the European model where we're going to see limited snowfall opportunities for a little bit, and I would say this GFS model is less optimistic for cold in the east overall. As we move past that period, it looks like from the 18th beyond, there's going to be limited opportunities for snowfall and colder air on this particular model. We do see the upper Midwest and Great Lakes dealing with some snowfall. That does move into parts of the Northeast, but we don't see that cold return until Christmas Eve, Christmas Day. And really, it's not an intense area of cold air. It's more moderate at best. We do see that warmth try to make a fight back around the 27th, 28th. Although it does appear we have some really intense Arctic air that could be on the way in, we have warmer air trying to battle it. So it's going to be a back and forth battle. We don't get quite as many snowfall opportunities in the long range on this GFS model compared to the European. And this is important to understand. Models diverge at long range. The European is more aggressive with cold and storms. The GFS is warmer and quieter. Reality will probably be somewhere in between. Now I've seen a lot of people panicking. Winter's over. We're only 12 days in right now. We've seen a really cold and snowy start overall if we're looking at it as a whole. And overall, all long-term signs and signals point toward positive things. Let me explain the science behind why I'm optimistic about the rest of winter. First, ENSO. We're in a La Niña weak La Niña, and it does look to warm. This is going to put us toward a neutral ENSO as we reach the midway and latter portion of winter. That's going to overall increase favorability for cold air, but also for a more active storm track. That's a very positive change that is upcoming. Second, the MJO remains very optimistic as we're remaining in phase 8-7 territory. These phases favor cold and storms for the eastern United States during winter. The fact that we're camping out in these favorable phases is huge. Third, and this is really exciting, sudden stratospheric warming events look to continue to bring Arctic air, at least for the first half of winter. We'll have to see how that second half goes, but very optimistic signs in the long range. These are not just buzzwords. These are real atmospheric patterns that drive our weather. And right now, they're aligned in favor of an active cold winter for much of the eastern United States. Looking at total precipitation, we're getting less and less in the east. I'd say the most is obviously from the Ohio Valley through the mid-Atlantic and Northeast, but a huge lack in the central states and the deep southeast. The west, however, is picking up in potential activity. As we look at the anomalies, east is dry, west is wet. There's no way around it. That is the look for the mid-Atlantic, Northeast, and Ohio Valley. We are a lot closer to normal, though, looking at total snowfall tons for the mountainous west with above-average activity and below-average temperatures at times. This is obvious. We're seeing this clipper track kind of slow down. As we move into a warmer pattern, these clippers are going to be moving further north, impacting mostly Canada. And look at all the snow up there in Canada. As Arctic blasts move over this area with tons of snow, it's going to make things even colder for us when those air masses move through that and into us. This is a really positive look for potential cold down the road. We still see a lot of Great Lakes lake effect snowfall and northeastern snowfall on this model run. The GFS model similarly shows huge totals in Canada also for the mountainous west. The clipper pattern does slow down, but we do see some of the upper Midwest and northern Great Lakes and interior Northeast still cash in on some of these far northern snow systems. Now, let's talk about the temperatures moving forward, because this is where things get really interesting. On the European model, we get this major Arctic blast for the weekend. This is Sunday the 14th, and here's what I promised at the 4-minute mark. These magentas are 25 degrees or more below normal. That's massively cold compared to normal. There is no way around it. This is frigid air moving in this weekend. 25 degrees below normal. Let that sink in. If normal is 30 degrees, we're talking about actual temperatures of 5 degrees. If normal is 20 degrees, we're talking -5. This is dangerous, life-threatening cold. That Arctic blast lasts a few days all the way till Tuesday for the eastern seaboard. Starts to die down by Wednesday, where we return to near-average conditions for Thursday. But as we keep going with the day, we get a lot warmer as that cold front's about to move through. Once it does, though, we get another little quick burst of cold air that lasts for about 2 days. We warm back up, and then we cool back down for Christmas Eve into Christmas. And then we warm back up, and then we cool back down. You kind of get the point. It's up and down on this European model. The GFS model shows the Arctic blast, then the next one sort of tries to move in but is a lot less successful. That southeast ridge looks a lot more dominant than the European model. It's not even really letting cool downs move in until Christmas, where thankfully we end up with a colder Christmas on both models. And then we warm up, and then it looks like Arctic air is about to move in again. The specifics don't really matter at 15 days out. I'm just showing you that despite this warmer air mass, Arctic air masses are still posing threats on these models. So let me bring this all together and give you the timeline you need to understand. This weekend, major Arctic blast, 25 degrees or more below normal. Magenta zones on the map, life-threatening cold. Sunday brings a moderate snowstorm for the mid-Atlantic and southern New England, 3 to 6 inches for many locations. Early next week, Monday through Wednesday, cold lingers, but starts to moderate. By Thursday the 18th, a significant storm system develops with the potential for severe weather ahead and winter weather behind. Friday brings that system through with snow for the northeast and lake effect ramping up. Weekend of the 21st milder again. Christmas week back and forth. Some models show a storm, some show cold, some show warmth trying to fight back. After Christmas, signals suggest more Arctic air is ready to move in. This pattern isn't done with us, not by a long shot. For those of you worried that winter is over because we're seeing a mild period mid-December, relax. This is normal. This is expected. This is how winter works. The Arctic needs to recharge, and when it does, it's coming back. All the long-range signals support continued cold and active weather. The La Niña warming to neutral is good for us. The MJO in favorable phases is good for us. The sudden stratospheric warming events are good for us. The massive snowpack building in Canada is good for us. This has been an excellent start to winter. Yes, we're going to see some milder periods. Yes, the clippers will slow down for a bit. But the overall pattern favors cold and storms. The overall pattern favors an active winter. So don't panic when you see a mild forecast for December 20th. Don't give up when the clippers shift north for a week. This is part of the process. This is how winter breathes. Cold, mild, cold, mild. But the overall trend favors below normal temperatures and active storm potential. The next 2 weeks are going to be a roller coaster. Historic cold this weekend, moderate snow Sunday, milder mid-December. Another storm potential around the 18th. Christmas patterns still uncertain, but leaning colder. And beyond Christmas, more Arctic threats. This is what an active winter looks like. Buckle up, because if the long-range signals are right, we're just getting started.